Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you can hear me all right. I feel like I say that before every show, but just making sure. So today, I want to talk about contradictions, specifically the ones I see and hear a fair amount amongst woke educators and even parents, but also the kinds of people who comment on parenting and the raising of children in general. What sparked this, what made me want to bring this to you, was something I saw on Twitter X recently about kids working. And that is the first contradiction. We are told all the time that children can consent. Children are not the property of their parents. They are unique and special little individuals who should be respected and be able to make all kinds of life choices. Unless, of course, one of those choices is to make money, to trade their time and labor for money. So that's the first one. I'm going to show you the example that I'm talking about. Here is this charming young. Listen to him.
What are your specials?
We have a 2 for $7 on our routine chicken sandwiches and a 2 for $5 on our Whopper Juniors and our BK wraps. And also, you can get 6 cookies for $3.50.
May I just have one cheeseburger to go, please?
One cheeseburger, is that all for you today?
That would be all.
All right. That would be $2.11.
$2.11?
It's $1.99 plus tax, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Cheeseburgers at McDonald's were used to be 69 cents when I worked there for my first job.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
What?
If you want any napkins, they're right over there.
Okay. So aside from being adorable, he says please and thank you and ma'am and I'm sorry, and he's so polite and efficient. He's obviously young, but he probably can't be younger than 14 and a half, I believe. It depends on the state, but it's not like he's 12 or 11. But what the person said was child labor is back in America. They also have a Palestinian flag in their bios. So I think I can reasonably infer that they're on the left side of the spectrum. Woke is shorthand for that to a large degree. Why is this a contradiction? Well, I already told you, if a child is old enough to consent to all sorts of medical treatments, to changing their pronouns, changing their name, reading pornographic material, having conversations with adults who are not their parents about sex and relationships with other people of a sexual nature, then I think they're old enough to work for a living. That is not to say that because a kid is old enough to work for a living, they're old enough for that other stuff. They're not the same. I'm just pointing out a contradiction, that it seems strange to me that the activity that does not assault their innocence and just sort of helps them grow up and do things that they're not only physically capable of doing and emotionally and cognitively able to do, but that they should be doing because they need to start earning a living and earning money and understanding how money works in the world, how the world of work works, but also relating to people. How many different social and emotional skills did that young man use in that brief interaction? Many. So, I mean, he made eye contact. He was polite. He was articulate. There was an exchange of information. Uh, that's important. These are important skills to learn. So, there's nothing age inappropriate about that. But that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, because he can work for a living, that justifies all this other adult stuff we want him to do. No, they want to jump ahead many, many steps. So when you see people talking about how mature kids are, how even a 6-year-old knows what gender they are well enough to change their name and pronoun, all this, but then they get bent out of shape that you might suggest they use an 11 or 12-year-old babysitter who's a responsible kid from down the street, because that's either child labor or they're too young and they couldn't possibly be safe and they couldn't possibly make decisions to keep your children safe while you're not home and so on. You should call it out if you can, if you feel comfortable, at least in your own mind. Call it out and notice the contradiction. And if you're ever in a position to challenge this publicly with teachers or something, call it out there too. The next one I talked about in my Words of Wokeism recording yesterday, which is about mindset, sort of under the same SEL banner, but you hear about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And the claim is that schools will teach your children a growth mindset, that that's what they're working on with SEL and other parts of the curriculum. Growth mindset, as I mentioned in that video, is the idea that you have the ability inside yourself to improve, that you can grow and develop and become better tomorrow than you were today of your own accord through practice and learning and so on. Fixed mindset is the belief that your situation, your abilities are fixed, whether it's your intelligence or your station in life. Doesn't matter. That's fixed. So we hear that they don't want our kids to have a fixed mindset and they're teaching them to have a growth mindset. And then they deliver the message that the world is divided into systems of power and privilege. Some people have it, some people don't. It's divided by immutable characteristics, accidents of birth, things that you can't change, and then some that you can if you decide you're going to change your pronouns and name, but that there are arbitrary fixed factors in the world that will get in your way and prevent you from succeeding, and that you can't do anything about it other than get active, get angry, protest, rebel, start a revolution. So you don't have the power to go over, under, around these alleged barriers. You have to destroy them, decolonize, deconstruct, and so on. That's a contradiction. How can you have a growth mindset and at the same time be an anti-racist? They don't go together. But you'll see the same school say, we're committed to DEI, anti-racism, equity, however they put it, cultural sensitivity, all the things that come down to making sure the students know about social justice and what this fixed pie looks like. We teach intersectionality, all of that. That's a fixed mindset. Doesn't work. So when you hear that or you see that, ask these questions. How can my child develop a growth mindset when you are telling him or her that they're an oppressor or oppressed? That sounds pretty fixed. How do you square the two? So that's number 2. The next contradiction is whenever they talk about parents, parents are our partners. They're vital, important partners in our community, educating children. They're our partners, etc. And then turn around, as you've seen it happen many times, and say parents don't know. Parents don't own their children. Parents shouldn't have a say. They're not the experts. Would you want a partner in anything? Life, business, I don't know, a vacation? Would you want a partner who was inept compared to you? Who really should defer to you on everything? Is that a partnership? Mind you, these are the same people who challenge gender stereotypes and say that, a wife shouldn't serve her husband and that they should be equal, 50-50 all the time. Possibly even the wife should direct things. But you parents, you parent partners, sit down, shut up, make me a sandwich. Bring the orange slices to the practice. Give us your money for the training event we want, the PTA event we want, whatever. We want you to go get money for us. We want you to do all these things for us. But otherwise, shut up. That's not partnership. It sounds a whole lot like exploitation, abuse. I don't know what else you want to call it, but it's not partnership. So it's a contradiction. Don't call me your partner and then treat me like I'm inept and ignorant and I don't have something valuable to add unless I agree with you. So again, this is my loving spouse. They are my partner in life. It's so great. Shut up. That's stupid. You shouldn't talk, whatever. But I agree with this. Oh, you're so smart. You're so wonderful. It's the same thing. If you agree with them, you're the best thing ever. These parents. So here's an example. You may have seen Tiffany Justice on Joy Reid show, the Read Out or whatever it was, talking about the book. What's it? Queer something. Why do I have a mental block against this book title? I can't imagine why. Anyway, she was talking about this book, and Joy kept trying to trap her. Are you an expert? And you know this, and you haven't even read the book, this kind of stuff. And she said, I don't need to be an expert in the book to know that I don't want my kid reading about strap-on dildos and rape. So it was really a great moment for Tiffany. I think she did a great job. But there's Joy saying, what about the parents who want this? What about the kids who need this information, et cetera, et cetera? So those parents are brilliant, apparently. Those parents who want this for their kids, they know exactly what their kids need. Absolutely. Oh, all boys are not blue. Thank you. It wasn't, thank you, Crystal. Crystal's in the chat saying that the book is All Boys Are Not Blue, not genderqueer. Genderqueer is the other one. Thank you. So those parents are so wise. They're so wise, but not Tiffany. What do you know about it? That's a contradiction. Either parents know what's best for their children or they don't. And it's not just when they happen to agree with you politically. So doesn't work like that. That's a contradiction. And the next one sort of flows from that one is about learning itself. Children know what they need to learn. They need to construct their knowledge. Our lessons should follow their lead and so on. Well, then why can't a parent do it at home? Why can't a parent do it wherever they want? Why can't they choose where it would be done? Why do you need experts leading the way? Why do you need the teachers union? Why do you need all of these degrees? Why do we get asked, where is your teaching degree from? Do the kids have teaching degrees? I'm pretty sure they don't. So I don't think you need an expert if the kid is the expert. If adults are the expert, then why wouldn't the person who lives with the child, whose child it is, be more of an expert than the person who sees them only 8 hours a day and doesn't have the same skin in the game, literally? Doesn't make sense, does it? It's a contradiction. Kids either know what they need or they don't, and they need experts to show them. And those experts need to be adults, except when they want to choose their pronouns and their gender. See how it goes? So these are really common contradictions. I think the reason it's hard to spot them is they're so omnipresent. Almost everything a woke educator or even parent says contradicts what they say. When they defend DEI itself, as an example, if you read the link I put in our Discord today that takes you to Undercover Mother's article in Substack about NAIS schools, the private schools. In 2022, Project Veritas secretly recorded DEI directors at their person of color, conference, talking about how they screen in admissions for people who don't agree with DEI. So in one breath, they're saying equity is so important. Diversity is so important. Inclusion is so important. All of these terms. But we have ways. We turn away hundreds of people because they don't agree with us that DEI is important, or because their answers didn't really reflect that they were going to contribute anything to DEI. I mean, it's all in the video, included in the article. So DEI is vitally, vitally important as a tool for weeding out people who don't like DEI. And in the same article, they talk about parents again. Parents are vitally important when they affirm. When they affirm, when they pick these books, when they beg for these books, when they defend these books, when they defend the teachers, when they protest on behalf of all of these things. They are our partners and vital to the education of our children, says Miguel Cardona. But when they say, no, I don't want this for my kids, I don't think it's appropriate, etc., morons don't know what they're doing. Obviously stupid, not experts. And in the second video, it says, we have all these ways of lying to parents in the private schools. They're paying $30,000 a year to send their kids here, and we lie to them like this. And in a couple of the videos, the people are sort of laughing about how they're lying. The link is in the Discord under links. The whole article is great. It talks about so-called public-private partnerships and so on. So those are the big ones as far as I'm concerned. And there are little offshoots off of that, but they're all of the same variety. Your child is absolutely ready and mature enough to hear these heavy, heavy topics. But don't you dare send them to work, you abuser. Don't let them walk down the street alone to their friend's house, or you're obviously negligent. Don't decide what they should learn or not. Don't pull them out and homeschool them. It's just so obvious. But like I said, it's so obvious and constant that we miss it and we don't call it out and say that you're contradicting yourself. Stop speaking. And we have to be that firm, whether it's a friend, a relative, a teacher, a politician, I don't care who it is. They start going down this path of, but children need, or but experts say, just how does that square with this other thing? Explain. And I guess the last one I'll add, it's not really a contradiction. Well, it's a little bit of a contradiction, but it goes hand in hand with the others. It makes the others possible. There are things they will tell you children need or children depend on that defy reason. There's no evidence for them. So as to the consent one, they're old enough to consent. They know those things. They will turn around in the very next breath and tell you, if you do not allow your child to transition, to use the pronouns, whatever, they're going to die. They're going to kill themselves. They're not going to just keel over and die. It's not like some magic button that gets pressed and they, expire. They're going to kill themselves. It is inevitable. This will happen. There's no other way to stop it. Now, does that sound like they're describing a rational individual capable of making an informed decision? It's widely known that people who are so suicidal that they're an imminent danger to themselves are not to be trusted with pretty much any decision. You wouldn't put them in a car. You wouldn't put them near a gun. You wouldn't leave belts and shoelaces lying around or sharp objects. Why would you hand them a pill, a syringe, an opportunity to have someone else take a knife to their body? But they'll say it all the time. Oh no, I don't want my child to die. I'm like, wait, stop. Think. All the more reason you don't allow your child to make these decisions. And people should be saying this more to the clinicians, the teachers, the counselors. So what you're telling me is my child is in a state of complete irrationality where he or she is a danger to him or herself. They cannot be trusted. I really shouldn't even leave them alone in a room, is what you're telling me. That is how distressed they are. Well, for sure, I'm not letting them make permanent decisions under these conditions. It sounds like they need to be in a padded room under supervision of a psychiatrist. And then we'll decide what to do next. Thanks for the info. Bye. But instead, people get bullied and browbeaten into this false binary of my child is either going to die or make this incredibly adult decision that will permanently alter their fertility and their body. And they're falling for it. And I think the reason people fall for these contradictions is the way they are presented. So be on alert that maybe there's some inherent contradiction, or there's snake oil they're trying to sell you when someone comes at you with a highly emotional argument where they're tweaking you emotionally and they're insistent and certain about what they're saying, where there's no hesitancy at all. Your child needs X. You shouldn't be like, "Oh, really? How do you know?" Well, and expect a mountain of evidence. Here's how we know. We've looked at it over this time. Here's all this, stuff, calmly, dispassionately, and always at the end with, just want you to know and have all this information at your disposal so you can make an informed decision. Let us know what you'd like to do. But anyone's like, no, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Nobody who had your best interest at heart ever came at you like that. Think about it. Think about conversations you've had with people where you tried to persuade them to do things. Whatever it is, quit drugs, quit smoking, quit eating crap. Did you go at them with, you're going to die? Like, that probably wouldn't work very well. Or did you go at them with, look, I've been looking at our diet and I've been looking at some of the most recent research about, fats and calories and this and that. And it looks like we can increase our health if we do. It's pretty much common sense. And these are people who are supposed to be in the teaching world and the counseling world and the medical profession. Why they would come at you with the equivalent of a middle school girl argument, you have to because reasons, is beyond me. So be very careful. If you feel your heart rate going up or you feel yourself sort of being judged, that's the time to say, I'll take it under advisement. Thanks for the information. I'll get back to you. Or just no, you haven't persuaded me. You're going to need to do more than emotionally threaten and blackmail me to get me to do something or agree to something about my child. And anybody who's threatening you with, well, we might have to call DSS. That again is somebody who's probably trying to cover for contradictory information. They know on some level, it might not be conscious, but on some level, they know they have two different things they want that don't go together. I want to treat your child like an adult when it suits me, and I want to infantilize them when it suits me. And I want you to butt out. Unless you agree with me and are going to facilitate me doing this, in which case you're a hero. It's really so manipulative. So this is shorter than my usual video, but there aren't, there's not a lengthy list of these contradictions. They just kind of fall under this kind of, the child is the child, except when they're not. The parent is the expert, except when they're not. And they contradict. So be aware, comes up a lot, came up with this video. And by the way, for the record, I think children should work starting at probably about 12. Now, what should their job be? It's going to depend on the kid and their maturity level and their abilities and where you live and a million things. But as I said, it is not the same as deciding to be a different gender. Deciding to go out and, people used to have paper routes. People used to be babysitters. That's age appropriate. So don't let anyone challenge the challenge either. So as I said, if they, so your kid's old enough to work, but they're not old enough to know their pronouns. That's correct. How can you figure that doesn't work? That's it. Actually, it does, because childhood is not, it's not a race. It's not like I am a baby and now I'm an adult. So like anything I do that adults do suddenly makes me an adult. No, we start doing things gradually. It's like, oh, look, I know how to do multiplication doesn't make you an astrophysicist. You gradually work your way up. You acquire more knowledge and more maturity and more ability. It's the same thing. But they create these false binaries to try to trap you in them. So call them on it. Innocence is underrated, and it's our job to protect it It's also our job to protect our autonomy. The final thing I'm going to say, because this also came up this week, I guess you could say it's a contradiction, but the people in charge of our schools and our government who are woke love nothing more than to say we don't own our children. Children are not property. And they do that on purpose because they know that most of us think, ooh, that does sound kind of icky to think of my child as a piece of property. So again, it's emotional blackmail. But in point of fact, your children are your property. Not in the same way that, my eyeglasses are or something, but there's a reason it's called custody. Your child is of you. Your children belong to you in a very literal sense. And the state can only change that custody in extreme exigent circumstances. And even then, what it takes to terminate parental rights is a very high bar. Even now, even in the wokeified United States of America, it's a pretty high bar. There are truly abusive parents who don't lose their parental rights. And there's a reason the child gets put with a guardian or a foster parent who is not their parent. I've known people who've tried to adopt kids they've fostered where both parents were drug addicts. And the foster parents had the kid from birth to like 5. And they still had to go to court and fight and fight and fight to get both parents to voluntarily surrender their parental rights to the foster parents so the child could be adopted and become their child. So that they would legally have custody of the child, the child belongs to them. But it's not a belonging like the child belongs to me, I can do whatever I want, obviously. Obviously. The child has certain basic rights that the state will intervene to protect them, to protect, but it doesn't change who the child belongs to. So anybody that tells you that your children don't belong to you, it's like, well, they sure as hell don't belong to you, the state. Just because the state has an authority to intervene in exigent circumstances doesn't mean the state owns the children. The parents do. They do. And don't be afraid to defend that. So anybody who's telling you that you don't own your children, but in the next breath says the state knows best, the teachers know best, they're telling you they want to own your children. The children belong to all of us. That's the contradiction. Either children belong to no one and they're no property, or they for shit sure belong to their parents more than the state. That's just common sense and decency and the entire history of Western civilization, not to mention biological reality in most cases. Certainly legal reality still. So don't fall for that somehow a child comes into this world and it's automatically like nobody's except the states. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say today. I'm asking for suggestions. Now in the Discord, we have a section called topic suggestion or request. I think it's topic request. Please put them in there. I mean, I try to come up with stuff and I come up with things, but I want to cover things that are of interest to you. Send me on a mission to go do some research about something. If something pops up and you're like, I want to know more about this, that's what I'm here for. So Mondays are homeschooling topics. Fridays are pretty much anything else. If anything floats your boat, strikes your fancy, whatever, please put it in there and I'll do my level best to cover it for you. It could be something very narrow. I don't care. It's just, that's the purpose of these shows, is to serve the membership. They are members only. You guys are supporting me and by being here, and I appreciate it. And I want to make sure this is of value to you. And then finally, if you know of other people who could benefit from this content who are not here, please feel free to, plug the membership. I realize it's a little difficult to get people over here because we're in a Discord. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but if we had more people, like Woke Screen as an example, which has more members, has a little hop and chat going on. They also have game nights. They have some fun things because there are more people. Things start to get a lot more active and fun when there's more than 2 or 3 people. So I encourage you to bring people over and talk it up and so on. It will be a lot more fruitful the more people we have here. and we can get into some really cool stuff. I would like in this new year to add with this membership at least one community call, but the couple times that I tried to start them, nobody was coming. So also please in the chat, put what some days and times are that would work for you. If I start off with just the members we've got and I tailor it to that, so be it. At least we'll have a community call for just the 2, 3, 4 of us, whatever. But then we can work from there. I just want this to be useful. I don't want it to be like, well, nobody's there but me. Let's build this community. It does take a little bit of work, but we can do it. And the one area where I'm really not that great, I'll be honest, is I'm not the best marketer of my own work because I'm too busy trying to also, learn things and read and parent and homeschool and all the things myself. So this is, I guess you would call it part-time. But I'm doing, what I can, and I want to do more, but it's going to be easier to do more when there is critical mass over here. So thank you for your help in that regard as well. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I will see you back on Monday. And that's about it. So have a good one.